patterns of emotional bonding that shape how we connect with others. They develop in early childhood based on our interactions with caregivers and influence our relationships throughout time. So understanding attachment styles can help improve communication, emotional security, and overall relationship satisfaction, which we are all looking for. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Nazia. Welcome back to Urban Woman.
Walaikum salam, Sister Razia, and to our Urban Woman listeners. I have missed Radio Al Ansar. And you.
We have missed you indeed. Can you believe it? 2025 is here. How have the years just flown?
Shukr alhamdulillah. Hey, hopefully comes with new fresh energy or rejuvenated.
Inshallah. I mean, I love that spirit, all about positivity, definitely. Now, doctor, let's talk about this. What exactly are attachment styles and how do they form?
Okay, so I'm glad to hear that a lot of people are using attachment styles like that person's an avoidant or that person's dismissive more and more. So these are becoming buzzwords, and I thought, okay, let's delve into it so they have a better understanding. So an attachment style starts off from the primary relationships you've had, your primary caregivers, your parents, and how they treated you, how they responded to your needs when you were young. And those relationships, and of course, also in interaction with the personality of the child, becomes the basis of how you interact or how you are in every other relationship you'll have or every other interaction you have. So everybody has this kind of base, like Sigmund Freud says, personality is formed by the age of 5. And we know most of those are based on the interactions we have with our family. And there are 4 predominant attachment styles, as I'm sure you know when you hear people talking about. There's the secure, which is healthy relationships where we can speak about anything. We may get upset, but we're able to handle ourselves and come back from it. There's anxious, the anxious attachment. I'm sure you've heard this as well, where people say, oh, she's so anxious, or she's so insecure. And that person wants constant validation, wants to constantly know where you are, or their mood is dependent upon you. That's our anxious attachment. You have the avoidant attachment. And I think we are generalizing, but I think quite a few of our brothers are the avoidant ones because it's not a big deal and we don't have to talk about this and we will not show feelings. So that's our avoidant. It's not a big deal. And it's good to have, to some degree, I think the world loves the avoidant because they don't make anything a big deal. They just carry on. But it's very difficult to have an avoidant partner, especially if you're someone that wants to communicate. And then we have, and this one is not as known as the others, it's the disorganized attachment style. So this one it's a push to pull. I want you, I want to be closer, but I'm going to push you and I'm going to test you. I'm going to be chaotic. I'm going to give you, I'll put you in a double bind all the time. And these come from, like for example, the disorganized attachment comes from parents who the child wanted closeness with and who maybe at times was close to them, but they were also very scary figures. So there's probably abuse in that home. And that's why, the disorganized sort of attachment style. So as your parents know how they treated you and the impact that it had in you will affect how you relate to others in this way.
Wow. Of course, it's like the soil that you planted in, and that's what you absorb and that's what you take, and that what becomes familiar, and then obviously becomes some sort of your emotional home, and then on a subconscious level you attract that. But then tell us then, how do these actually affect our relationships? Like, for example, marriage.
Yeah. So each style has this unique challenge and a unique dynamic to it. So for example, someone who's securely attached, and that is the healthiest form, they are open to being vulnerable, they open to being intimate, they can trust easily. If something goes wrong, they can come back. I'm not saying they don't get upset, but they can come back from it. They can give their partner benefit of doubt. Even if they get upset, they can regulate themselves. They're able to come back to baseline. Or they're able to think, if this person is not picking up my call, they're not doing it to just harm me. It may be that she's busy, or it may be that he's busy. They're able to look beyond that, right? They're able to empathize more. But then we have the anxious attachment who wants to be close all the time. The relationship is what matters. If I didn't have a good conversation with you or you didn't greet me, my whole day kind of goes off. It's hard for me to come out of that. Now, that kind of partner needs reassurance from you. They constantly need that kind of, tell me I matter to you, tell me you love me. And I think it's important that we have to see that we are responsible for our own feelings, and our partner can do only that much for us. But let's just say you have an anxiously attached partner. Then you
Mm-hmm.
don't play fools and say things that you know will rile them up, because they're not going to take it like others would. You
Mm-hmm.
reassure them, and beyond the point, you go, you know what? I have told you, and now I think it's enough. But you don't
Mm-hmm.
tease them and provoke them or make them jealous and have a good time with it. You be more that those are the partners that are sensitive. So you adapt
It's very
yourself
true.
to them, right?
Yeah.
Because they probably fear abandonment. They probably fear that you don't feel for them, because they feel so much as they feel for you. And then we
Mm-hmm.
have our classic avoidance, who don't want to talk, who struggle with any sort of emotional intimacy, who just want to push everything under the rug. Now, with that
Right.
partner, when you say, let's talk, Ola, they want to
Yeah.
run.
You know?
They are
Right.
going to
Yeah.
sleep. They will switch off. So you have to be gentle with them and go, you know what? Or when you're fighting and they're just switching off, you can see you're not winning. Okay, babes, do you need space? We can come back to this, because they want peace. They want space. An anxious one
Mm-hmm.
just wants connection all the time. It's about balancing it off. So the
Yeah.
avoidant may need space, or may need, okay, I'm not going to fight with you. I just want to speak about this. We can do this over text, or we can do this later, or whatever. Like, you see how you can make the avoidant safe and draw them out. Most, funny enough, ironically, the avoidant will probably attract the anxious. So
I'm
you have that
sure.
dynamic. The anxious wants to
Yeah.
pull you out, and the avoidant wants to just block. The more the avoidant blocks, the more the anxious comes to like get you, and then you're stuck
What
in that time cycle.
true, as they say, what you resist shall persist, right? It will
It,
keep coming back. But it's so important to also understand where we are, as you are also explaining, in which category perhaps we falling into, because we often expect other people to make us happy, as you said, wanting that validation, but we are all responsible for our own emotions. So it's a heavy burden to place on somebody for them to make you happy. I mean, if you don't know what a rose smells like, you want someone else to make you know, or how give you that experience, it just doesn't work. It's got to start from within. So beautifully explained. Now, doctor, once they have actually, or a person has actually identified the attachment style of their partner, then what would you say they should actually do about it?
right. So I think bring awareness to what you are noticing. So first, bring awareness to what your attachment style is. Like, for example, if I say I'm an avoidant, so I realize that when you are talking to me, I may switch off or I may close off. And this is
Mm-hmm.
what I need from you. This is what I would appreciate from you to feel safe in this relationship. I've noticed, and tell me if you agree with me or not. I've noticed that the more when I ask for space, because I realize that in tempers are flaring, you attack me. You say things to me that you know will hurt me. Now that's what an anxious person could do, or a disorganized could do. They'll just say
Yep.
anything to get a reaction out of you. So you have a conversation. This is what I am. This is what I've noticed in me. This is what I've noticed in you. This is what I need. But you have these conversations when you guys are good, not when you're
Yes.
fighting, because it's too late then. You're both are riled up. You're both going to go into this dynamic. Patterns
Mm-hmm.
do persist. An avoidant will try and avoid. An anxious person will want to talk about everything. So have these conversations when you're like good. You might even have these, I call them safe words. You might have these words to say, I'm feeling attacked again. Can we talk about this later? Or you're pursuing me. Or the anxious might tell the avoidant, you're hiding or you're running. Some
Mm-hmm.
word that is neutral, that feels safe to both of you all, that you both can use, that will keep you all connected. Because when we fight, we disconnect. The avoidant disconnects, and the anxious feels abandoned. That I'm in here alone. I'm doing all the work, and you're doing not much. So I
Yeah.
think being able to communicate and find what makes your partner feel safe. Because the avoidant just want peace. They don't want to abandon you. They just don't want to
Mm-hmm.
fight. You don't know
Yeah.
what kind of parenting style they came from. When you're
Correct.
screaming, you're reminding them of their trauma, and they don't want to be there. So they literally are switching off, possibly even falling off to sleep. And you think, am I that boring? But it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Their nervous system is overwhelmed, and they cannot deal with this right now. So you have to stop
Correct.
personalizing it. And you might even want to speak, communicate what happens to you when I say this, because I've noticed your eyes are getting heavy. Bring it up, bring awareness, bring observation. So communication, and not just communicate to speak. understand, listen, empathize.
Absolutely. Oh, that is so empowering. And that is, I think that's the key that we often miss out on. Because if you observe certain people talking, how often you actually find somebody really listening? Because people, they have so much going on in their mind, like, how am I going to respond to this? What should I be saying? And often the narrative that comes through, like as you said about the avoidant, they're probably feeling attacked and they don't want to, or there's some sort of a fear that's coming through as well on both sides, but understanding what the fear
So,
is.
when they're talking, like it's so like when I sit with couples in the room and the partner says, "Do you see what she's doing? I don't want to talk," and then she goes, "Do you see? He's rejecting me again. He said one word." And she'll
Yeah,
like maybe whichever way she'll take it or he'll take it, and they
that
didn't
narrative.
hear anything else. They just
Mhm.
picked up what they wanted to pick up from the conversation, and they hear and they interpret according to their own wounds. They're
Correct.
not hearing what their partner is saying in the moment.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
it's just the message gets distorted.
Correct. So essentially, you're not hearing that person from their perspective, but you're hearing it from your own wounds and your own trauma and your own programming in childhood. Which brings me to the next question then. How does all of this attachment styles then affect parenting? Because remember, we as adults learned it from somewhere, right? Our parents who learned it from theirs. So then how does that impact us then as parents?
So it's the way we communicate to our partners, to our children will impact how they see the world. So just say an avoidant person who doesn't want to get too involved may take on a parenting style of, let's just say, um, permissive, which
Mhm.
is, I'm your buddy, I'm your friend, you do whatever, it's okay. Which we know is not good for children, right? We are the parents, we have to make decisions at times
Absolutely.
for them. Or
Yes.
it can take maybe a negligent sort of parenting where we
Mhm.
just don't care that much. And then that
Wow.
child starts feeling very insecure in the world, because a child who constantly gets away with nonsense with you, it doesn't actually give them security. A healthy attachment is where a child knows you can even tell me no if you know it's good for me. There's a
Mm.
routine in things. I'm not always having my way. I think
Yes.
you've heard me say this before. Children will test us because if you can't keep yourself safe from me, you can't keep me safe. I don't trust you. So, as a
Wow.
parent, or as an
Yeah.
avoidant, or as a disorganized, if you constantly let your children get away with things, that's not a secure attachment. That child
Mm.
will probably feel, I need to take care of my own business. If you have
Correct.
a secure attachment, then you're going to be able to say, listen, my child, I'm listening to you. I can collaborate with you. I can hear you. If you choose to do this, this will be the consequences of your actions. But at the
Mhm.
end of the
Mhm.
day, I'm your parent. I do not think this works. So the child
Mm.
starts feeling safe in the world.
So
Now
important.
here's the other thing. If you're an anxious parent, if you're someone who is wanting to get close, suffocating the child, but at times letting the child go because you're overwhelmed, that child ends up having ambivalent feelings towards you. The child gets a
Mm.
message. Number one, that the world is not safe. Number two, I am in charge of my parents' feelings. So that
There we
child
go.
might also grow up to be an anxious someone, but
Mhm.
that's not healthy for them.
Not
That
at
doesn't
all.
make the world feel safe for them. That's not what we want for them. So you can see
Absolutely.
that the way we are impacts our children, and then that
Mhm.
impacts them going forward.
Mhm. And as I
Mm.
always say, adulthood is all about undoing what we learned during childhood. So we
A
can
lot of
just get
it.
that right. Yeah, and be conscious of our own actions. And you know what? I think, Dr. Nazia, many of us feel afraid to actually own up and say, okay, that's my flaw, because many don't want to be wrong. But by our nature, just being human being, we created to be flawed. So there's no such thing as perfect. Otherwise, we wouldn't need the filters for our selfies, right? We're so
And the whole makeup industry will be gone, right? Like the aesthetics will
absolutely.
not be there.
And that in essence shows our denial. So we all have stuff and it's so empowering. It actually shows strength if you can own it and say, okay, you brought that to my attention. I'm going to work on that, because that will only make you better. But again, that does take some strength, because it's fighting that ego, that nafs that we know. Now, I'm all about understanding people when they come through with a certain ailment. So for example, if there's kidney issues, I know there's a lot of fear going on here, right? With regards to
Yeah.
my body talk. So, what would you say? Are there specific attachment styles also prone to specific health conditions?
So Look, there's a lot of research to show that, for example, when we suppress our emotions or when we suppress our feelings, which would be our avoidance, when we suppress, we come up with things, just say like cancer, like you have the cancer personality. That I think there's a book by Gabor Mate, there's Louis Hay. A lot of them speak about people. I'm not saying everyone, but a lot of people they've noticed with cancer suppress their feelings. So there's the C-type personality. You have autoimmune conditions, you have heart conditions. Emotions are energy in motion. And if we don't talk about it, identify it, process it, then it comes out in our body. So I've noticed that the avoidance come up with a lot. And even as the avoidance talk, they won't say, I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm hurt. They will say, like if they're feeling overwhelmed, I have a headache. My back is sore, not that I'm feeling unsupported. So I've noticed that the avoidance, and look, obviously there's a lot more to the medical fraternity, but just from where I'm sitting, the avoidance feel a lot in their body. That's where they process their emotions. That's where they're comfortable expressing themselves. You won't hear an avoidant being very verbal in terms of their feelings, like in the heart and emotions. So that. Okay, and then you have the anxious attachments. These ones are prone to muscle aches. They constantly tense and stressed, and also the headaches, muscle pains. So coming up with a lot of those kind of ailments. The disorganized attachments, the one I told you where they actually fear their figures, their parental figures. They want to be closer to them, so that there's a love-hate relationship where there's conflict. A lot of them we see with post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, bipolar, borderline personality disorder, because it's very, very scary that the person that's brought me into this world is not someone who protects me, but someone who I have to be afraid of. It's such a confusing state. So it really breaks the psyche up. It actually shatters the psyche. So that's where we're seeing quite a bit of our mental health conditions come up there.
Isn't that interesting? I mean, we are not taught how to express our emotions. We're not taught how to share it. But yet, if you deny it even more, then your body will basically talk for you. And it's about understanding and listening to that. But sometimes it's so much easier to just say, I have a headache, then I'm feeling overwhelmed, or my back is sore, and just carry on moving, probably the avoidant.
Like the avoidant, that keep on using this, the avoidant will not say, I don't want to fight. They'll just go, I'm feeling so sleepy. Or they'll switch off when you're talking and they literally can't hear you. Huh? What did you say? Something takes over. The body actually shuts down. Like the mind actually closes down. Yeah. They can't handle it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Always so lovely connecting with you, Dr. Nazia, and listening to you, because we take so much, and it's so important that we actually introspect, do the inner work. When you are able to, take the light and shine it inside of us, because we all have these dark spots. And that's the beauty of healing, is that you can take that light, and wherever light goes, obviously darkness automatically disappears. And then life becomes more enjoyable. You're able to operate from your natural fitra of love, which of course we're so afraid to go there because of all the fears, as we've just heard and Dr. Nazia explained, and if you can just wrap your mind around it. But as we wrap up due to time, Doctor, your take-home message for our wonderful listeners this morning.
So as much as our attachment styles are set in childhood, they're quite strong. Awareness is key. As you said, look beyond your ego. We're not perfect. All of us make mistakes. All of us come with what I call blind spots that we are not aware of, but our partners or our children experience in us. Drop that ego a little bit and listen to what your partner or your children have to say. If the more open you are to being aware, to consciousness, the more growth you will have. So even if you're an avoidant, but you noticed, hey, my family is saying that they feel unheard, or they feel that I dismiss them, or I gaslight them with whatever the experiences they are bringing, ask, what can I do? Well, you can sit with me while I'm saying this. I don't want you to give me a solution, or I don't want you to switch off, or I want you to listen to me. Whatever. Open to listening with awareness and with being open to feedback, we can have so much healthier relationships. So there's always hope to change. Just be open to it.
Beautiful. I think when we're doing that, let go of feeling like you are being attacked and that you're not good enough, to how can I become better? And these are people who love me, and just like how I want them to grow and prosper. it's coming from that same perspective.
This is how we break generational patterns and generational trauma.
Yes.
Because the attachment styles are what we bring, how we were treated with our parents, and how we become, how we are with our spouses. Now with our children, we can actually, this is one huge way. Let's break the pattern. Let's break the generational pattern, the generational trauma, by being different so we don't pass this on.
Absolutely. And we're seeing a big shift in this consciousness, alhamdulillah. So let's embrace it together. We are here. Remember, nobody has been created to be perfect. The more you stay in that, the more you stay in a facade. Embrace healing, embrace all our blind spots, all our dark spots, everything in order for light to shine through. Then Noor can come, inshallah. Dr. Nazia, until we connect again, have yourself a lovely day. And as always, we appreciate your valuable time on Urban Woman.
Walaikum salam and jazakallah khairan for having me.
Dr. Nazia Iram chatting with us about attachment styles. I hope that you did some introspection and use all of that information positively to realize that it's okay. If certain things are being brought to my attention, it's okay to pay attention to understand perhaps where is this coming from? Why am I doing this? Why is this my pattern? So that we can work on it and let go.